Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Okay, let's try and learn one little thing today. It's about cost allocation, but in the service department cost context. What I've got, I've given you a handout. How many of you, hands up if you haven't got a handout yet. Okay, so, it's coming from the back. Yeah, thanks, Josh. Good. It's coming from the back. So, I don't want to lecture to you today. I've given a handout because I want you to go through an example in clear detail, okay? So you understand how to do the quantitative example, okay? This example is in your PowerPoint slides that was available on the website, okay? The topic of today's lecture is what? But what type of cost allocation? Service department cost allocation. Could be any service unit cost allocation. What do we have here? What you see behind me is a large document management company who makes its business to replace all the service departments in organisations around the world. Okay? In other words, the big competition for service department cost allocation is, okay? The competition is, let's close the service department and get Xerox to do the service. Do you think they can do the service for you? Well, this is HR, and there are other services that Xerox can do. Let's go to finance. How many of you want to go to finance and accounting? Doesn't matter, we're going there anyway. All right? So if we go to finance and accounting, I think it's going to take us there. Let's just have a look. Visit the floor. Let's visit. Okay. And we want to go to finance and accounting. Why? Because that is another service. There's a case study you'll look at in about 5 or 6 weeks' time where a company in Hong Kong outsourced its back office to China and had problems with inefficiency. Had lots of problems with inefficiency because they couldn't control the efficiency, they couldn't control the culture, they couldn't control many things in that service department. So when you outsource, you lose control. But you get more control over the costs. Now what we're doing now, we are now going to the finance and accounting department. So in the finance and accounting department, they promise to do all the accounting for you. That means you don't need to employ an accounting group. Okay? So here we have,
you must be here for your digitized invoice.
I'm here to check out the finance and accounting department. So this...
Custom scented shampoo.
No, I don't want any of that, thank you.
Directions to the nearest waterfall?
No, I'm not interested in that either. Can you go away, please?
I'll just get those digitized invoices.
Go, please, thank you. All right, so now the finance and accounting department, they do many things for many large companies. All right? So when we talk about service department cost allocation, it could be any one of these services. Finance, I want you to think, HR. It may be a department that you work in, okay? Michelin is their new customer that they have got since I showed this 18 months ago, okay? Because I've been following this website. And they've got many other customers, so they just animate this in totality. They also got the hotel on their customer list. So I could go, the internet connection is a bit slow, but my point is, let's just stop that for a moment. We can just go to Xerox, close that down. Okay, that's one example. Xerox is basically, its business proposition is you don't need a service department, you just hire us. Today's lecture is about, well, if we've got service departments, we want to allocate those service department costs to justify their existence. Because one decision you might make, one strategic decision you might make is what? That you close it down and get Xerox, you see? All right, so there are many, I want you to think about the decisions that you have to make. If there are no decisions to make, then you don't need to do cost allocation. You with me? All right, you just don't do cost allocation if there's no decisions to make. Okay, so decisions can be associated with performance evaluation, accountability decisions, or outsourcing decisions, or expansion or reduction decisions. You see? Let me give you another example of costing that happens, real costing that happens in the firm. How many of you believe that costing is important for the organisation? Put your hand up. Okay, some of you. Okay, maybe I can convince you. Let's have a look at this one here. So, what you have here, this is real. This is real, okay? This is a real organisation. This is a purchasing manager in PQI, Performance Quotient International in Taiwan, telling us how they work out the costs of making, the cost of tooling to make a little case that goes on a 500 megabyte hard drive. You know what a 500 megabyte hard drive looks like? About the size of your iPhone. There's a case that goes on that. And what he is doing, he's got the case in front of him, he's got a ruler, and he's actually working backwards so he can tell his superior, how much does it really cost the supplier to make this product? That's real. That's costing. Okay? So costing doesn't just live in your management accounting textbook. You with me with this? You know, there are some courses you take and they look beautiful in the textbook, then you go into reality and it doesn't exist. How many of you have taken courses like that before? Okay, some of you. You know, it looks great in the textbook, but in reality, well, they don't do it that way. Okay? Well, I'm just here, look, that's the reality. Okay? This person has an engineering background, not an accounting background. So I encourage you, do a double major, accounting and, not finance, accounting and engineering. Okay? You will double your opportunities. Okay? So working backwards, it takes 20 minutes for him to work backwards to calculate how much it costs the supplier to make the tooling for that product. Why do they need to know that? Because when they negotiate with the supplier, they have more power in the negotiation because they have more information about what it really costs the supplier. And the supplier says, well, that costs us about $6 per unit. But in fact, it really only costs $3 per unit. You know that because you did your own calculations. So then you know if the supplier is lying or not. Okay? So this is powerful. And this is cost accounting, but it's being done by an engineer, not an accountant. Okay? So be careful about what major you take. Also be careful about what course you take. Okay? Take a course that is relevant to the real world, okay? And this goes for 20 minutes. So I'm very encouraged by being able to see this. I think you should be encouraged too, because that's real practice. That is real practice. Now, before I go further, I want you to take the handout I just gave you. Have you all got the handout? Are we good on that? Can you? Have you all got the handout? Okay, in this situation, let me just briefly describe the background. I want to really get to the chase, right? We want to go through really what it is, what's going on here, okay? Yeah, well, don't ask me after you picked it up. All right, someone else has found out that, oh, he's handing out something today. Yes. Okay. All right, just over here, okay? All right, and don't take any for your friends, okay? If they didn't come to the lecture, then that's bad luck for them. Okay. Wonderful. Isn't it great? Okay, take your seats, settle down, and let's go through. I want to try a process of discovery. In other words, I'm not going to lecture this to you. I want you to discover what the example is about. You know what process of discovery means? So it's just a step by step. It's going to be slow. This is a different lecture than what you're used to, okay? I'm going to ask you questions. So let me ask you the first question. The first question is, what is the service department in this example? Quick. What is the service department in this example? A service department is a department that does not make something itself and sell to the outside world. A service department is any department that provides some service to other parts of the organisation. So, what is the service department in this example? It's a computer department, yes? All right, central computer department. I need your participation if we're going to make this interactive today. So try your best and I can help you. The purpose of going through this is if you can just go slowly through this, concentrate really hard, especially for the first hour, then you'll be in a much stronger position for the midterm test next week. You with me? Okay, does that make sense? Okay, all right. So we have a computer department. How many of you have been into a computer department before? What do you normally see in a computer department? Computers. What else do we see in a computer department? People, programmers, people that think they know what a computer is. Yes? Okay. What else do you see in a computer department? Office equipment, and there's going to be software and lots of support equipment. Okay, so it's possible that we go on in terms of, we think about the expenses of the computer department. Some of the expenses are going to be fixed and some are going to be... Can you tell me which parts may be fixed? Equipment, maybe the service, okay, within 12 months, okay, so in a very short period, like in a long period, everything's variable. Why? Because you have to update servers, everything, architecture changes, so you've got to shift it out and move in new stuff. I understand that, but in the short term, what is not changing? Maybe the servers, the computers, the hardware, the monitors, okay, you understand that. And then in the Short term, they're going to have variable costs like what? Yeah, salary costs. Okay, updating equipment costs, maybe software updates, something like that. So we have a practical capacity. This is a big department. It's providing over 18,000 hours. That's how they're measuring the capacity. And there are fixed costs and variable costs. But the capacity is kind of, this is the limit. This is how much we can do at the maximum. Now, let's remember what I said. Cost allocation is only relevant if we have a decision to make. Okay? Here's our first decision. How much do we invest in a computer department? How much do we invest in the capacity? Okay, so write that down. Okay? How much do we invest in capacity? The answer to that for this is the company decided to invest in enough capacity for providing 18,000 hours. So that's an investment decision, you see. Someone made that decision, and maybe that decision is wrong. Maybe they invested in too much capacity or too little. So whose fault is that? If they invest in too much capacity, who should be responsible? Pardon? Finance department, maybe? Anyone else?
Manager.
The manager that made the decision, maybe? Who else can be?
The department who did the forecasting?
The
Sales department who did forecasting of demand.
the sales department that did the forecasting, okay, that provide information. All right, forecasting of what?
Like demand and how much service the demand would need.
Okay, forecasting the use. So we have two divisions here, right? So we could blame the divisions, right? Because I would assume that in planning the capital investment, they would have asked the divisions, how much do you need? Right? Then the division said, we need this much. One says, oh, I need 12,000. The other one says, I need 6,000. Oh, we'll definitely need 18,000 hours. Okay? And then if they use less than that, who do you blame? Maybe blame the divisions. All right? So cost allocation boils down to original decisions that are made. Okay? Don't allocate costs if there's no decision that you want to either improve the accuracy of or make someone accountable for. Okay? So there's always a decision accuracy part and a control part. Okay, a control part is who's accountable. Okay, if you don't have control or accountability over people, they could excess spend on everything and not care. Okay, so we start allocating costs, make people think, well, if I promise I'm going to use this much, they're going to charge me anyway, so maybe I need to be careful about what I promise to use. You with me on that? So it's all about getting more accurate communications between the users and the service departments. That's what we're trying to do. Okay, so don't overcomplicate what we're doing here. So based on past forecasts, these two divisions, we decided to make capacity 18,000 hours. So what did we do to invest to get that much capacity? We invested $3 million. How do we know? There, $3 million. That's the fixed cost of operating it. Let's assume that $3 million is the fixed cost for the next 12 months. We assume that is fixed. That doesn't change. If neither of the departments use the computing capacity, then you've still got to pay $3 million. So if the relevant range is going to be between $160 and $500 an hour, how did we get $500 an hour? How did we get $500 an hour? What's the minimum number of hours in the relevant range? 6,000 divided into 3 million is 500. But if you use the full amount, 18,750 divided into 3 million, I think we're getting closer to 160 per hour. So if we use all of the capacity, then the amount per hour is very, very low. You with me? So that's where they got the relevant range. Let's have a look at the two divisions. Microcomputer budget's at 8,000, peripheral 4,000. So now we have 12,000. And we have budgeted variable costs in this relevant range at $200 per hour used. How do we find out that? Maybe the wages. Okay. The wages are kind of fixed in a short time, but maybe you bring in new people as your capacity grows to do more support, if more support is needed. Okay, so there may be some flexibility in terms of system support, and that allows us to have some variation in the costs. So in summary, we've got a $250 per hour fixed, and we have a $200 variable cost. So here's my question to you. Are they the actual costs or the budgeted costs? Budgeted. They're budgeted costs, all right? Interesting. When we're making a decision, when's the best time to have information? At the beginning of the decision period or at the end of the decision period? Huh?
Both.
Why both?
If you make a mistake the first time, you learn and your budgeting will become better in the future.
Okay, so it's good to have at end, but to make the decision at the first, you need something at the beginning. So that's why in accounting, management accounting, we spend a lot of time talking about budgets. And you think, how boring. Put your hand up if you think budgets are boring. Come on, put your hand up. Come on. They are. The budgets are boring. Right? You look at a budget and you think, well, someone trying to control me, stop me from spending. How many of you have a budget? All right? How many of you don't want to have a budget? Yeah, see? So that's part of the reason why you don't like budgets, okay? But don't transfer that into whether you like or don't like me, okay? All right? If I like budgets, don't hold that against me, okay? Budgets can be very useful. Here's how they can be useful. The way you have seen budgets is in terms of a control device. It's an item of control. But budgets can be a very good decision aid. So if you have a budget, it gives you a better idea about how much you should invest for a certain capacity. And that's always based on budgeted forecasts. It's always based on the future, not always the past. So you need to do some budgeting to help make better decisions. So for example, setting up information systems capacity. Okay, so I know budgets are a little bit boring, but number one, most organisations use them, okay? And a lot of organisations don't know how to use them effectively, okay? A lot of them just use them for control. They may not use them for planning or decision making, okay? So, all right, whether you like budgets or not, here is the budget, here is the budget. We got budget variable, budget fixed. Like I said, I'm going slowly through this. I want you to absorb this questionnaire, this question, please. All right? So if we talk about a single rate, so we can allocate $450 to a user department, yes? Right? 250 plus 200. If we're going to outsource to, say, Xerox, our friends at Xerox, then maybe we choose to outsource if our friends at Xerox can do it for $250 per hour. Or anything less than $450, then we just outsource. And so we contact Xerox and they say, oh, $250. Oh, okay, let's close down our computing department and we will outsource the service. A lot of decisions are made on that basis, outsourcing decisions. Very short-term orientated though. Because really, this is just based on a single rate. What do we mean by a single allocation rate? What we mean is we just combine the fixed and variable together. Okay? And you know that's the wrong thing to do, right? What did you learn in Management Accounting 1? That we should... The only relevant costs are those that change. Those that change and those that are in the future. So in this case, in a very short future, the relevant costs are only how much? 200. The fixed costs are not relevant for the outsourcing decision. So how do we bring relevant costing, that concept, into service department cost allocation? Well, in your chapter, they talk about single rate and dual rate. Okay, so if we look at a dual rate, now we just make the decision based on, okay, our variable cost is 200. Can we go to Xerox and get something for cheaper than 200? If we can't, then we'll do it in-house still. Okay? You got the point there? In your PowerPoint slides, you cannot see this, in your PowerPoint slides that you can download online, did you all get access to them? Okay, it has this slide. Okay, I just want to save paper, that's why I'm not putting it in the handout. All right, the purpose of the handout was to go through some of the detail of the allocations. So we're going slow here. We're going slow. Let me just repeat, why are we doing an allocation? And you can underline these parts. First of all, maybe to help control the service. If I allocate my service costs to you, okay, and then you ring me up and ask for me to come and help fix your computer, okay, the person I'm serving is going to think, I'm paying for you. I'm paying for you. And it makes it, inside the firm, more of a commercial transaction. Do you know what I mean? Makes you think twice. Do I have to ring up for service or not? Do I really need some service? You see? So it brings an element of market transactions inside the firm on both sides. So the minute I know that my computer service costs are being allocated to various departments, and then I go and help people, I know that the people know that I am charging them. So that makes me be more professional than if it's just, I'm just part of this iron rice bowl called this computer service department, and I only have to answer to the service department. I do not have to answer to you. But as soon as we start allocating costs, now you become a customer, I become a provider. And that relationship just changes a little bit. You only have to make that change a couple of % to have an effect. It's not like I come to your door, okay, give me $100 before I help you. Okay, that's the ultimate. Okay. But there is some effect there once you start allocating costs. Right? So please, this is a very, very important reason why you want to allocate costs. Number two, you may want to signal relevant costs to the user department. See, this is more like a social exchange. It's trying to formalise the social exchange and attaching some monetary value to that. Here, we're saying, look, you promised us you're going to use a certain amount of capacity. We invested millions in this capacity, so now we're going to charge you. So whatever you promised in the past, any future promises of extra capacity you want, you better be correct, or you better have some basis for what you're promising. Okay, because we're going to charge you anyway. You see that? So that's what we mean by we're signalling relevant costs to the user department. The user department can be those two other computing divisions. Right? So keep in mind, when we allocate costs, we're affecting that social exchange that occurs between two people in the same organisation. Okay? We're turning one into a customer, the other one into a provider type relationship. Number